Video number 49. That's a lot of videos. We've come quite a long way down the rabbit hole. And so if you've been following along since the start from video number 1, then you're probably starting to think quite a bit differently to any other Christian on the planet. And you're probably seeing a wide gap between what you might believe now and what everyone else believes. A giant chasm is starting to occur between you and everyone else. A chasm probably similar to the one that Jesus Christ described when he talked about Lazarus in the bosom position and the rich man. And the rich man wished he could be there, but it was a giant chasm between them, and he couldn't get there. So I think the important thing, if you've been in this audience for the last 48 and now the 49th video, I think the important thing for the audience is to determine for themselves. Is it the truth? Is what Jesus Christ said would happen really happening? And is it really happening now at the conclusion of the system of things? In fact, is it now the conclusion of the system of things? Because if families are being divided, people taken away, no one's noticing. There are brothers being hated and excluded by reason of God's actual name, to whom a promise is written in the scriptures and end time scriptures, that it's them that might rejoice when Jesus Christ actually does appear and arrive. But he hasn't yet. Has he? He hasn't actually appeared. But has he come as a thief and done exactly what he said he would do? So it's a decision that my audience needs to make, and it's probably one of the most important decisions you'll ever have to make, with the most enormous consequences. Yeah. What you should be deciding now and thinking about now, the conclusions you should be coming to, whatever they are, I guarantee there will be an enormous consequence simply on what you believe. Is it the truth? And are you putting up with it? And if you are putting up with it, then what should you do so that perhaps you will be the one standing when Jesus Christ really does appear? Are you being refined by all these things that you're listening to as you go down the rabbit hole? So it's a lot of questions, and there's a question Jesus Christ asked here in Matthew chapter 24 that you should be asking yourselves. Are you really putting up with these things? So I'm going to start in Matthew chapter 24, and I'll start in verse 43. Jesus Christ said this about the end times. But know one thing. One thing we should know. Only one thing we should know during the end times. That if the householder had known in what watch the thief was coming, he would have kept awake and not allowed his house to be broken into. On this account, this one thing, this account, you too prove yourselves ready. Ready for what? So are you ready? There's a question you should be asking yourselves. Are you ready? Based on this one thing. Did Jesus Christ actually come as a thief and take people away while no one noticed? Because that's what a thief does. Comes into your house, takes things away, and eventually, sometime in the future after he's done that, you might recognize that, whoa, that's missing. So, are you putting up with that? Do you think Jesus Christ is actually powerful enough to do that? Divide people off from their families for a very special purpose, a very good reason, and yet no one would notice. So if you think we are living during the time of the end, you're probably amongst the very few people, very few Christians on this planet who might now be noticing. And so, if you are noticing that one thing, and you are putting up with his coming as a thief, then are you now ready? So, I'll keep reading now in verse 45. Who really is the faithful and discreet slave, whom his master appointed over his domestics, to give them their food at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on arriving finds him doing so. So, if you are putting up with this, putting up with the day of his coming, and you yourselves are in awe at Jesus Christ's power to actually have done this without anyone noticing, are you ready to give your domestics their food at the proper time? And I can't think of any other Christian now, other than yourselves, who might be ready. There really is a giant chasm growing between the people who might live in God's kingdom and those who are still in Jesus Christ's kingdom, the kingdom infested with Satan's weeds. So, Do you agree that you've been appointed? And can you see through watching previous videos how the scriptures prove that it's you that's been selected and chosen? Not because of anything special you did. It's an act of mercy, an undeserved kindness. God gets to decide. No one else does. Not even you. And so the decision you make now will determine if you are indeed ready to do these things. So are you putting up with it? Have I told you the truth as we proceeded down this rabbit hole? And are you now ready to actually do what Jesus Christ wants to find you doing when he eventually appears, so that you might be the ones rejoicing after having been hated by your brothers and excluded by reason of God's actual name? So you should know who your domestics are now. The Apostle Paul helped you to identify them. He wished he could be the one separated as the cursed one from the Christ on behalf of his brothers and his relatives according to the flesh. The domestics. Your domestics. So, what's this food that you're now supposed to give to your domestics? Well, and where do you get it? Where do you obtain this food? Well, it's not literal food like pizza and beer or fish and chips. It's got to be the truth. Certainly Jesus Christ wouldn't want you to give anything else but the truth to your own domestics. So where do you find it? And who obtains these truths that you should now be feeding to your own domestics? So you should have already given that a lot of thought and recognized that, yes, it was a future audience of excommunicated Christians that Jesus Christ promised to send a helper, and that helper would guide them into the truth. And so, if it's that future audience of excommunicated Christians that know the truth, or who are presently being guided into all the truth, growing in knowledge towards accurate knowledge of the truth, then that has to be the food that Jesus Christ wants everyone selected and chosen to feed to his domestics. And so now we're living during a time where we're expected to be doing that, and Jesus Christ will appear. So think about the imminency of that awesome event when he does in fact appear, with rejoicing on your part. Are you ready? Are you putting up with it? So here I am putting up with it, and this video series is, hopefully Jesus Christ will recognize that it's evidence of that I am indeed putting up with his coming, and I hope to be found still going down this rabbit hole when Jesus Christ eventually does appear. So perhaps I myself might be found rejoicing, that he might appear with rejoicing on my own part. And so if I'm bearing witness to these things, then certainly I should expect the audience to in turn bear witness. And if that's my expectation, then it should also be yours. That if you are ready and now bear witness, you in turn bear witness, the people that you witness to should be convinced to do the same. They in turn should also bear witness. And so on, and so on, and so on. And eventually, the mustard seed planted in the earth will grow. And the true knowledge will become abundant. And the ones bringing the many to righteousness will shine like the brightness of the sun in the kingdom of their Father. So, while you're bearing witness to these things, you should also be convincing your own audience, your domestics, that Jesus Christ has indeed come and done everything he said he would do. And they should also now be in expectation of him appearing and very carefully making a decision, deciding whether they are putting up with it and whether they are now ready to be found rejoicing. If they're now ready to go out and meet Jesus Christ and actually stand before him with a gift offering that will be gratifying to Jehovah. And so, if you in turn bear witness to these things, you should be beautifying Jehovah's name, helping your audience understand just how merciful Jehovah really is, and helping your audience give glory to Jesus Christ, recognizing just how powerful Jesus Christ really is. And so, if you bear witness to these things, you don't need to give glory to me. Give glory to Jesus Christ. It wasn't me that separated people from their families and took them away from a truly dark place and then brought them into his wonderful light. It's Jesus Christ doing these things. And he's the one who promised he would do them. Are you putting up with that? I am. I hope to be found doing the exact same thing when he does appear. So, is it you? Are you the ones that Jesus Christ will find faithful to him? And so isn't that really the ultimate test of faith? Did you really have faith that Jesus Christ could and would do all the things he said he would do. And certainly then, it's recognizing that. Those people who recognize that one thing, yeah, he did come as a thief. And he took people away. And no one noticed. Think of the extent of faith that it would actually take for people to recognize that. It's enormous. Exercising faith in Jesus Christ. So, if faith could be measured, and I suspect it could, then it most certainly could be measured by this one thing. Having faith that Jesus Christ really would come as a thief. And steal people, Christians. Steal people from within his own kingdom. People who would eventually shine as brightly as the sun in the kingdom of their Father, in God's kingdom. Faithful that, yeah, I am being chosen, selected to participate and cooperate with Jesus Christ in the harvest at the conclusion of the system of things. Harvesting your own domestics. And so, do you understand how to give them their food? And where that food is found and distributed? It all comes from Jesus Christ. And so if you in turn bear witness to these things, it's not your food, it's Jesus Christ's. It belongs to Jesus Christ. He's the one you should give credit to. He's the one who promised he'd help us. The future audience of excommunicated Christians. The same ones he said, your grief will be turned into joy. A joy that no one can take from you. Happy is the one that Jesus Christ finds feeding his domestics when he does appear, with rejoicing on your part. And so, if you're participating in the harvest, you should now know what to bear witness to and who it is you should be bearing witness, your domestics. And you should also recognize that now has come the salvation, the power, and the kingdom of our God. the mustard seed has been planted. Now is the proper time. So I'm going to read a little further here, and let's go to Matthew chapter 25, because it talks about God's kingdom there. So I'm going to jump ahead here in Matthew chapter 25. And I'll start in verse 24. This is a verse about the wicked and sluggish slave. Listen carefully, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. Jesus Christ said in verse 24 of Matthew chapter 25, "Finally, the one that had received the 1 talent came forward and said, 'Master, I knew you to be an exacting man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not winnow. So I grew afraid and went off and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours.' In reply, his master said to him, 'Wicked and sluggish slave, you knew, did you, that I reaped where I did not sow, and gathered where I did not winnow? Well then, you ought to have deposited my silver money with the bankers, and on my arrival I would be receiving what is mine with interest.'" So, yeah, that's a frightening verse. And it's a continuation of what Jesus Christ described in Matthew chapter 24. Notice, however, that Jesus Christ is expecting this wicked and sluggish slave to cooperate with and participate with Jesus Christ in the harvest at the conclusion of the system of things. And so if you recognize that, yes, indeed, Jesus Christ is harvesting the wheat out of his kingdom, the kingdom that would be infested with weeds, then he's also expecting the faithful slave to participate and cooperate with him in the harvest. And so this admonition to us in regards to the wicked and sluggish slave shows that there should indeed be faithful Christians who would participate. And that if you do indeed bear witness to these things and feed your domestics, the people left behind in the kingdom hall, your family, and the brothers you've left behind in the kingdom hall, it's very possible and likely that you will reap. You will now be a reaper, participating with Jesus Christ and his angels, but also a winnower, winnowing the wheat and separating the wheat from the chaff. So you would be fully cooperating with Jesus Christ on the threshing floor, winnowing the wheat that is reaped, taken out of that place of darkness. And so certainly it might be possible for the faithful slave to take the wheat out of Jesus Christ's kingdom. But then, do you understand here that Jesus Christ is saying that you're also being asked to participate in winnowing? Let me read it again just to make sure you understand here. Wicked and sluggish slave, you knew, did you, that I reaped where I did not sow, and gathered where I did not winnow. And so, if you in turn bear witness to all these things, you can expect to be reaping and winnowing. And yet, when you have success, and you do indeed obtain wheat in the harvest that you're being asked to participate with, and that wheat is winnowed and separated from the chaff, that it belongs to Jesus Christ. He reaps where he did not sow, and it's him. It's him that gathers where he did not winnow. You're the reaper and the gatherer. Gathering something that belongs to Jesus Christ. A gift offering. Do you see why it's a gift? And so, if you are now getting ready, you're ready. Ready for what? To participate in the harvest at the conclusion of the system of things. And your gift offering will enter the kingdom. The kingdom of God. Do you see it? Do you see why the righteous ones, the ones bringing the many to righteousness, the truth, will shine as brightly as the sun in the kingdom of their Father, God's kingdom? And so, here at video number 49, you need to be making a decision about whether you're ready and whether you do indeed have faith that Jesus Christ is powerful powerful enough to do everything he said he would do. And so, will you be the one going out to meet Jesus Christ and stand before him with a gift offering, participating, cooperating with him, understanding that you've been selected, chosen, appointed to do that? It's a big decision. It's a decision which really is a measure of faith. Having faith and then exercising that faith. Ready to meet Jesus Christ. Are you ready? Do you understand that one thing? Are you putting up with it? Who will be the one putting up with his coming? And who will be the ones standing when he does appear?